Oluwaseun Arambada, an investment research analyst at Meristem, will be joining us to discuss that. Okay, so I think we do have Seun on today. All right, Seun, thank you so much for your time. So let's talk about the industrial goods space. And typically when we hear industrials, we're thinking about the cement players. So let's start with that. What's your expectation in terms of the outlook for that business moving forward?
Right, thank you, Wally, for having me. So in terms of what we think for industrial goods come 2022, we don't think it's going to be a bad year. Well, fully, 2023 is it's a pre-election year, and of course, it comes with its own, say challenges, so to speak, for the general economy. But for us, we think that cement consumption in 2022 will be mainly driven by, public sector capital expenditure. We do not expect so much from private capex in 2022. We think that we might see a general investment apathy, from the private sector, because of election uncertainty and security challenges. But on a balance, we expect sizable volumes in the year.
All right, and then let's talk a bit about demand, though, because it's a pre-election year, and typically there is that argument that there is a lot of spending that should drive economic activity. Do you think that the industrial players will be beneficiaries of that?
Yes, exactly, and that's why I mentioned earlier that for us, we think that much of this spending will be seen from the public sector, right? In terms of capital expenditure now. So I think most of what will drive volume growth for.
All right, I think we are struggling with that connection to Oluwaseun. All right, Seun, please go ahead. We lost you for a second.
Oh, okay. So I was saying that, like I mentioned earlier, we think that what will drive volume growth, in 2022 would be, demand, especially from the public sector, because we expect to see more expenditure, towards capital expenditure as the election draws closer. For private capex, we expect a drag from this end, because we think that there will be some sort of apathy, towards investments as the election draws nearer, because of something that, has to do with the election and security issues generally.
All right. So beyond the cement players, though, so we have the food companies. Brew Food, for example, was listed just this week. What's the outlook for those businesses in your view?
Right. So, the outlook for these companies, we can take cues from what we expect for the agricultural sector at large. Agri is the single largest contributor to, the single largest sector contributing, to GDP in Nigeria. And we know how a lot of government support has been going into that sector. We think players in this sector, are going to benefit from what is happening in that space. If you look at, output growth for the agricultural sector, the growth momentum has been weakening despite, all of this intervention. And that speaks to the structural challenges, that we have in the domestic economy, security challenges, in the northern part of the country where you find most of the country's food belt, right? So despite all of this, support from the government towards the sector, it's not translating really to the kind of output growth we expect to see. But nonetheless, the listing of Boa Foods, for me, one direct benefit we can see, is the increase in the investable universe in that sector, right? And coupled with the fact that I think the company has, a rich portfolio that, that could mean growth for it in the future.
All right. And of course, all this is happening in the context of the broader economy. So I want to get your take on that. Many are suggesting relatively slow growth, but of course, it's also a pre-election year, which I think could eventually impact the dynamics. What are your expectations?
Right. So we also, I mean, we shared the thought that, we might not see the kind of sharp growth we saw in 2021. Recall that growth in 2021 was flattered by a 2020 low base. We do not have that low base to enjoy in 2022, although the recovery, in our opinion, is still on course. But that base effect is going to moderate the kind of growth that we expect to see. For us, we think that the non-oil sector is still going to champion economic growth. While, like Luke was saying earlier, why we expect some improvements in the oil sector. We still think that growth will still be led by the non-oil sector. We can only hope on swift recovery of the oil sector.
And speaking to people moving into this year, one thing that I have found quite interesting that many are not mentioning that much is insecurity, because as you know, that was a big issue last year, and indeed in prior election cycles it was also a major concern. What are your thoughts about that and how that could impact economic activity this year?
So I think insecurity in the context of the Nigerian economy, I don't think it will constitute so much of a shock, because it's something that we've had ongoing for a number of years now, and we've seen how that has limited the growth potential of the country. So we really can't model that as a shock to the economy. Instead, we can say that something that has capped the country's growth potential. But nonetheless, looking at 2022 as a peculiar case, we are going into the election, and you can expect that towards mid-year you begin to see the electioneering activities go into full swing. Conflict of interest here and there, and that could spark some a little bit of heat, in terms of security. We do not rule that out as a downside factor to economic growth. It's something definitely we should be on the lookout for.
All right, it's early in the year, so it's a good time to perhaps give some projections and some buy recommendations. So looking at the industrials, which stocks do you like the most? And just give us your quick rationale for that.
Okay, so in terms of recommendation, we'll always recommend.
All right, I think unfortunately we have lost Oluwaseun there, but I was speaking to Oluwaseun Arambada, an associate investment research analyst at Meristem Securities. Of course, his perspective on the industrial goods sector here in Nigeria. And that's all we have time for on the show for today. Many thanks for joining us. From me and the team, do have a great evening.